In this session, I'm really excited to have Amr Awadallah on. He's the CEO of Vectara. We are going to talk about unlocking creativity and how to revolutionize the content with AI and the future. And I'm sure we get into many things here. My partner in this project, Jan, is actually using Vectara for his SaaS in Germany. So I'm sure he has even more questions. And he actually introduced me to Amar's work, and I've been checking it out on LinkedIn, Twitter. He has some good stuff there as well. So with that being said, warm welcome, Amar. Really excited to have you on for the session here.
I'm excited to be here too.
And Jan, very welcome as well.
Thank you so much. It's good to speak with the man that makes the backbone of my business happen.
Yeah, this is special, I'm sure. Let's kick it off. Jan, you can take the lead here, and I'll just ask as we go here as well.
Sounds very good. Amir, what you are focusing on with Vectara is grounded generation or retrieval augmented generation. Can you maybe, for those people who aren't familiar with those terms, set the stage and separate that against the usual ChatGPT, bot, Anthropic type of AI everybody knows about?
First, just to take a small step back, Vectara is about building a trusted AI platform. And what that means is to allow you to take your own documents, your own data, your own knowledge and information. That could be lots of recordings like this podcast we're doing right now. It could be legal documents. It could be medical documents. It could be accounting documents, whatever. And then ingest them into a system that would allow you to have a conversation with your own data as if it's another person working with you in your company. So this is really what our platform is about. But to do that within a business context, it's very important to solve the hallucination problem. And the hallucination problem is the problem of large language models making up stuff, right? When I ask ChatGPT, what does Jan do? Might make up something and say Jan is a guitar for a very famous rock band, a guitarist for a very famous rock band. That's what we say. That's what we refer to when we say hallucination for the layman folks out there. And that is a useful artifact when you're working on a sci-fi novel or when you're working on a movie script. It's good to have creativity like that, stuff made up. But when you are using it in a business context, no, you don't want to make up stuff. And right now, actually, large language models, they hallucinate anywhere between 3% to as high as, some of them can hallucinate as high as 27% per time. And that's even when you give them clear restrictions, don't make up stuff, they would still make it up. So that's a problem that the industry at large is working very hard to solve. And there's a number of other key things that need to be solved as well for trusted Gen AI to be used within an organization. For example, explainability. A lot of businesses care about explain to me, like, why is this the answer to my prompt? Why should I believe you? What did you derive this from? What is the provenance, the lineage, the proof that this is the right answer? So that's a very important feature that any business needs, especially if it's in a regulated industry like finance or health or accounting or law. They need to have that. And then last but not least, access control, meaning if you have a company with 20, 30 people, CEO asking the question from the large language model should be able to see everything. CFO maybe also see everything. But then somebody in customer support, somebody in sales, somebody in engineering, they might not be allowed to see everything. The model needs to adapt its answer as a function of the person asking that. And that's another way to problem. The way to solve that problem is what you refer to as RAG. It's a very common industry term now for that. And it stands for retrieval augmented generation. Or the term I prefer more myself because I'm a gamer is grounded generation. And I prefer it because the ground generation stands for GG and GG is good game. So that's what I like the term. Essentially, the idea behind it is you want to do generation still, but you want to ground it in the truth. You want to ground it in the facts on the tape. And the way that's done is by actually having two models that work hand in hand, the two models that work together. The first model is focused on reading information, understanding it from a comprehension and retrieval point of view. And then the second model is focused on writing it, like taking that information and then writing it in a good way to be reflected back to the user asking the question or issuing the prompt. When you issue a prompt, the first model would very quickly read all of your documents, read all of your information that you put in there, and find the needles in the haystack, find all of the paragraphs, the sentences that are related to this concept or prompt or question that you are curious about. And then it gives these facts to the second model, and then it tells the second model, now put that into a cohesive answer for this question, but only use these facts. Don't go and use any other creative ideas you might have in your brain. And that's how you minimize hallucination, but it's also how you provide explainability and how we solve the access control problem as well.
And that's why I think
I
it
agree.
is so important for content creators to understand this, because if you have, let's say, 500 blog articles on your website and you want to level up the customer support quality that you have, or you have an online course like Navid Moazzez Mastery course with 70 hours worth of video, if we fed all the transcripts into a platform like Vectara, customer support is sorted essentially. Like first level support is 95% sorted. What I love about the platform, not to turn too much into a fanboy here, but what makes this useful is that you don't just give a list of the documents back. When customers come and they have a question or they want to find something that you talked about in a specific lesson in your content, they ask a chatbot and they don't just see, oh, this is lesson number 74, go and watch it for yourself, but they extract the knowledge and they give the answer directly. And I think that's a shift in the industry I haven't seen before. I've been in AI since 2019. But this is something that only 6-8 months ago became available to the broad masses, I would say.
Yes, very well said. And I want to highlight as well that these neural networks are multilingual. They speak many languages at the same time. It doesn't matter what languages your documents and information is in. It could be French, English, German, Swedish. It doesn't matter. Chinese, Korean, Arabic. I come from Egypt, so you speak Arabic over there. You put all of them in the system. And then when you ask your question, you also can ask it in any language as well, because the neural network is multilingual. It speaks all these languages fluently. So it very quickly can find the most relevant information, regardless of the source language of the documents or the way that you're expressing your question. It also doesn't work in the way that we have been trained with search engines. We have been trained to do what's called keyword search. You have to say the right term, and the right term has to match what's in the document you're looking for. No. In this new world with these neural networks, they're like us, like humans, meaning they're matching based on the meaning and comprehension and understanding. Oh, is this relevant to what you're talking about right now? Regardless of the exact word might not even be there, it will still match it correctly. It's truly magical to see this evolution of neural networks and how that they can now understand human language in the same way that we can. I want to also stress that this is part of a much bigger trend. The bigger trend is you are correctly identified beyond that. Right now, it's the answer engine stage, right? So now we're giving you the answer. In the old world, we used to give you, here's a list of results, go read them and you figure it out for yourself. That was the old world. I called that the search engine world. And now we are in the answer engine world where we just give you the answer itself. You don't have to read anything. We're going to read all that for you and we're going to give you the perfect answer. But the future that we want to enable is the action engine one, because in some cases, you can take an action based on the answer. For example, your question could be, I'm trying to take a vacation, file a vacation in my HR system, and it's very hard for me to file the vacation. What's the right steps to file a vacation? And the system will tell you, step number 1, do that. Step number 2, do this. Step number 3, you're done. But that is still the answer. You still have to do it yourself. If we get the answer correctly without hallucination consistently over and over again, then now we can just do the task for you. So when I say, hey, I want to go on vacation, the application would respond back to you. Oh, I can help you with that. When are you leaving? I'm leaving on that day. When are you coming back? I'm coming back on that day. What's the reason for why you're going to take a vacation? It's taking some paid time off. Thank you. Vacation is fine. And that's the future. Every single app in the future will evolve to have that kind of verbal interface. It doesn't have to be spoken. It can be written as well. But for the harder tasks, it's a much more natural thing to be doing it that way. And I see this very similar to how the DOS movement came to be, the Windows 95 DOS movement. Before Windows 95, for those in the audience old enough, we had something called DOS that we had to use before that. And
the black
DOS
and white
was very
terminal.
hard to use. You had to remember all the commands, all the options. Very few people, the geeks, all of the geeks were able to use it. And then Windows 95 came in and said, okay, let's put all these commands in a nice menu. And you have a nice mouse that you can move around to click the command and Windows and so on. And that opened up consumption to a whole group of users. But we had to go and re-implement and re-architect every single app, every piece of software that was written for DOS had to be rebuilt to leverage Windows 95 and that kind of mode of interaction between a human and the software. Going forward 10 years, we got the iPhone in 2007, where we now have a touch screen and we use our fingers, and everybody knows how to use their fingers. Right, left, up, down, pinch in, pinch out. That makes it much more easier to use software. My mom is an expert iPhone user. Now
My
if you can
3 euro.
That's impressive.
Yeah, but then same thing. We had to rewrite all of our software to leverage, whether that be consumer applications or business applications. We had to rewrite it to leverage this new mode of interaction with our fingers. And now we're at an advanced stage where we're getting close to the point where we can just tell the software what we want. So if you're using an image editing software, I don't want to name any specific vendors, and then there's a tree in the background that's annoying you. And now you have to go and learn the steps, how you can select the tree and then fill it with something else to hide it. In the future, very soon, like within the next year, you'll be able to say, I don't like that tree in the background, remove the tree for me. My coworker is missing from this picture, add him in the picture, and the pointer will show up in the picture. Or as I said, with the vacation system, I want to take vacation, the vacation will be filed. I want to file my tax returns, and your tax returns will get filed. Like this is how we're evolving as an industry. We're moving towards a step where we can finally, as humans, work with computers just like we work with each other. That's why I'm super excited about this space.
This gets me fired up as well, Amr. I'm really excited because, as Jan mentioned, I have a program, or I was running it a lot for almost 10 years, and we had a lot of basically a very actionable program. We want people to complete a virtual summit in it. And imagine I had access to technology like this back then. First of all, I would have slashed customer support. I would have gotten even better results from the students, although we got incredible results. But I'm really excited what we were saying about action. This is not only getting the responses, whatever the content that I have in the community, they are searching for it, but actually getting like the action steps and maybe implementation. That would be incredible. I remember we sold like a set up your funnel thing. Imagine they just took care of it. That would have been incredible.
Yeah, we'll have that. We have it right now for some small programming functions and small pieces of code and small things here or there. But I would say within the next year or two, we're going to have that. We're going to be able to say, create my marketing funnel for me, and the funnel will be created. Not only that, we'll be able to draw a picture of your application or website. Say, this is my application. I want a button here. I want the action to be that. I want this. And you will be able to create software. Everybody will be able to create software. Everybody will be able to make movies, picture, everything. It's amazing.
What about having... I like something I see. We already see this coming because we've seen like Lex Friedman and Mark Zuckerberg like doing their avatars and they're cloning themselves. I think this is going to be even more available to the average Joe or the average person. That maybe can come into tools like Vectara or platforms like that. So you actually can, instead of just speaking with text, they're actually going to see my voice, maybe even see the clone of me, so I can actually provide the information and they feel a better connection and they see me, even though I'm sleeping or I'm traveling, whatever I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had this revelation this morning. Today was, at the time of recording, a really interesting day where the morning started with YouTube suggesting me a video how to fine tune, I think, Mistral 7B, an open source LLM, on my own tone of voice, which was nothing new, but exciting. Then a couple of hours later, a friend told me how to export all the emails from Gmail and feed that into fine-tuning an LLM in your tone of voice so that it actually writes emails and speaks in your tone of voice. Now you are saying we can put actions into this very soon. Now my virtual clone, it's just coming full circle for me right now that the virtual clone speaking in my tone of voice can actually act like I would on the internet. If I'm a solopreneur, if I am an online business owner with a blog, with some digital products or coaching or consulting services, what do I need to think about right now to stay ahead of this?
My number one piece of advice always is you need to start that somewhere. Start doing something, even if it's very simple. Because this wave, as we're all witnessing, is moving so fast. It's moving really fast. And by the time other people figure out how to use the technology to become a lot more efficient, they're going to be 100 times more efficient than me in terms of getting things done. And by that time, it might be too late for you to catch up. That's the problem. And that would be true for the individuals and it would be true for businesses as well. So imagine if you are a social media creator, and that's your job is creating lots and lots of very good content on social media. And now we're able to leverage this technology with a clone of you, with your voice and with your image, and with a technology that's able to take your history of previous knowledge and previous podcasts and previous words you have said and previous content you generated. And when you have a new idea for a piece of content, just say, I want to create a 2-minute video clip right now that's talking about this topic. When the video comes out, it's great, but you said 2 sentences in the middle, share them to be that done. And within 5 seconds or 10 seconds, you now have a new clip that's out. Like it takes other people a day to finish. So you can clearly see that will make you stand out a lot more if you master that part. So my advice is start playing with this technology, start discovering these different tools like Midjourney, Runway ML for producing mini movies, even Replit for coding or Copilot from GitHub for coding. Like it will help you, a layman person who doesn't know how to code. You will be able to write code. You should write the function that does this for me and the function will come out. So just start learning these things because these are going to be as essential as how we learn how to use computers. We learned how to use computers much more younger. And many of us were lucky with gaming. We would use our Commodore 64 or our Atari. Again, I'm a bit older than some of these folks, but that was our beginning. And we were able to excel in the world because we immersed ourselves into the technology at the beginning of it. And the exact same thing is happening right now. So my advice to all of your listeners is start doing something, even if it's very small, start using it in some way, even if it's just ChatGPT. Oh, this is my blog post. Please edit this blog post for me and make it look more professional, or make the title a bit more attractive, somebody to click on. Just do simple things like that, because that will prepare you for the bigger things and you'll be able to adapt to them and leverage them way faster. That's my advice. Start.
Yeah, there's so many tools coming up left and right as well. I think like the earliest tool I might have seen, like the Grammarly, that was years and years ago. And I think that was like generative AI built in to some extent, because it was like suggesting stuff. Don't write in passive voice, or write like this and things like that. And then we had like tools like Jasper and Copy.ai popping up. So 100% agree. It's just going to get in there and start using some of the tools. Jan and I, we always say we are not sponsored by AI or something, but use ChatGPT, use tools. Tara is a great platform as well. Jan is using it for his company. I don't know how open it is to the average user, but I think there's so many tools now, just getting in there and getting your feet wet basically with the AI tools out there.
Exactly. So pick one of these tools and just start doing something with it. That's my key advice. Yes.
What are the most common points of failure you see when people get started on this journey? I have a lot of conversations here in Germany with people who say, I'm too busy, I don't want to set aside time. It's like the wood chopper who's using his axe and just chopping away and not taking the time to actually sharpen the axe and become more efficient. What other things do you see that make it harder for people, or people making it hard on themselves to get started in this area?
That's exactly what you said. You gave the answer already. We as humans are optimized to resist change. Like we prefer to not change. We want to learn one thing, do it that way, and keep doing it in the same way. And it's very hard to change and adapt to a new way. But given how fast this space is moving right now, we can't do that. That statement of, imagine somebody when laptops were coming out and the iPhone was coming out, which by the way, there was many people like that. Oh, and I would never use an iPhone. This thing has a mic in it and it has a camera, and oh, it's so hard. I had to put my fingers on the screen. I don't have my oil on the screen and fingerprints, and they fell behind. These people fell behind. They weren't able to interact as better. They weren't able to maybe do business as better. They weren't able to connect with their medical doctor as better. There's so many things. And eventually they had to say, okay, we'll use the iPhone. But it was 10 years later, and they really lost lots of opportunities by doing that. But that's because of it's very hard for us humans to change. We want to keep doing things because there's the easy part and the hard part. The easy part is to keep doing the things in the same way you know how to do that. And the hard part is to learn a new way. But as you correctly said, if your axe is not working and you keep using the same axe over and over again because you don't want to change, you're going to fall behind. The guy who gives it some time to fix their axe and maybe go buy instead of the axe, buy an electric
chainsaw,
they will do your job 100 times faster, and guess what? They're going to make 100 times more money, and eventually you won't have a job because they will be a lot more efficient at doing the job than you are. Like spot on, your advice is perfect, and yes, we have to. And with the younger generation, like with my kids, for example, I tell them the number one skill that I have in the future is your aptitude to change. Continuously learn new things and change, because technology will keep doing some of our jobs, more and more of our jobs. And those of us who will excel will be those that either use this technology to be much better at their jobs or learn new jobs continuously. I can be a developer now. I can use Replit or use Copilot and start writing code. I can be Steven Spielberg now and make the new ET. I'm just going to use the new Midjourney. Right now, Midjourney only does 4 seconds or 5 seconds of movie clips. It doesn't do longer ones. But I'm going to use that, and now I'm going to make the new ET. And that's the whole point. Like, you need to be open to that. oh, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to use a smart LLM that does medical. That's a much harder one, but
I see like sometimes two groups of creators. There are some people who are extremely creative, like photographers and videographers and things like that. And I feel like some people, they are hesitant to get into it because they feel that AI can hinder their I feel it, for me at least, I feel it can just enhance it and make
yeah,
it better because I don't get any writer's block. I can come up with unlimited ideas and things like that. So I wouldn't say if you're maybe a videographer and you're amazing at video editing, you love doing that, at least that from my perspective, they would probably still keep editing, but maybe they would use AI to just amplify what they do. They probably wouldn't use like Opus Clip if they can edit better themselves, right? But they will, and then most editors with 10 years experience can probably do better than AI right now to some extent. But I think it's just they're getting left behind, as you talked about, if they don't get into it, because there's so many other use cases. For me, I like to use, I like to do this kind of thing. This takes time. This is my time, but I like to amplify this content with the, I don't like to put the tags on YouTube. That's AI takes care of that. The chapters, purposing this content maybe into a blog post, things like that. But it's a unique piece of content. That's my creativity and showing up to things like this, for example. So yeah.
yes,
And that's
exactly.
exactly where grounded generation comes in again, because we are creating something original right now, and then we can base that, or we use that as the foundation for an AI system
Sure.
that people could chat with. If they wanted to tune in
Yeah.
to a summit or something and have support, they chat with it instead of speaking to us.
Yeah.
Yes, but while minimizing hallucination, we keep jumping between serious topics and then fun topics, because many people are using, for example, ChatGPT right now and other LLMs to just write blog posts, and they post them as is. No, don't do that, because it can still make up some really bad stuff. And if people read that blog post of yours that you have not checked before you put it out there, and it has these wrong statements or wrong conclusions or wrong factual, like the population of Germany gets it wrong, or who's the current president of the US, and it says Trump instead of Biden or something like that, that will make you look really bad, right? And people will stop coming and checking your content because they'll think you're not good at your job right now. So I would say right now, one of the key things we need to be very careful of when we use this technology to create for us. When it's creating an image, again, hallucination in an image is okay. Even though right away, it looks very ugly. When you have somebody with a hand coming out of their ear, we can tell right away that's not how it should be. But for words and for knowledge-based content, whether spoken or written, you still need to be careful today. You still need to check that yourself. And that's one of the things that we focus on, is giving you that kind of assessment of how accurate this statement is. So you have more confidence when you publish that legal draft, or you publish this blog post, or you publish your story, or this email that you're going to send to your team, that you're more confident.
That's a really interesting train of thought right there. What's your take on AI ethics?
That's a very good question. I would say, what's your take on ethics in general? I think the problem with ethics is not AI. The problem with ethics is us, is that humans have different perspectives and they don't see ethics in the same way. For example, in the US, as we have guns everywhere, everybody can buy a gun, and we have lots of deaths from that. And I think that's unethical, that we allow anybody to just grab, and not just like a small gun for self-defense, like a big M16 and kill a bunch of people around them. I think that's unethical myself. Right? So because ethics are in the eye of the beholder, it's actually very hard to get eye now to subscribe to our ethics, because we don't have the same ethical framework. Each person have the different ethical perspective. So I think that's the bigger problem. It's us, not the AI. I think we can always get the AI to align with whatever we want it to align with. Like, oh, we can get a stable diffusion thingy and that align, don't generate naked people, nude people. Don't do that. And we can, because maybe that's against whatever. We can always get it to fit what we want, but the problem is we don't all want the same thing. We all have different ethical frameworks that we prescribe for. So that's an excellent question, Jan. It's a question that I actually don't have an answer for, because I think we humans are very complex.
Yeah, Amr, I saw a report, like it was for AI for creators actually, and I saw some people, or a few at least, they were hesitant to get into AI unless there's like regulations behind it. What kind of role do you believe AI companies like Vectara and others should play in shaping kind of the policy and regulations with authorities, and what role should the users of the tools play as well?
Very good question. So one of the key points behind that hesitance that some businesses have is the copyright and intellectual property problem, right? So if I'm going to use a new blog post, and it's not grounded in my history, my document, it's not using a system like Vectara's, then what guarantees that the blog post it writes does not contain some content that's a copyright from some other company that would come and sue me now? So you publish that on your website. I wrote that first, but ChatGPT sent you as the conduit, but you're responsible because you published it in your website. So one of the things that actually we don't mitigate at Vectara is again, we ground the output of the model in your content. So it doesn't go and hallucinate new content that might be somebody else's copyright. Another key points that you have to be careful with about creating this hesitance is bias. And sometimes the AI models could be biased. You ask them a certain question and they give you a very biased response. And if you were to put that as is on your blog post or email or content, that bias, now people will look at you and say, you're biased, you're racist, or you're whatever, right? And so one of the things that we do as well, again, we are grounding it in your content. If your content is biased, we're going to give you biased responses. But the key point is when you ask the question on your content, you will still look in your content and try to get different perspectives. We're not going to just go and get you the one only perspective. We will try to get you a variety of perspective around a variety of facts around like the topic you're writing about or the question you're trying to answer, so that when we're giving you back the response, it's a balanced response. So for example, one of the demos we have on our website is a demo called Ask News. And Ask News is indexing content from BBC, CNN, Fox, like a bunch of popular news sources. When you ask your question, we look across them and we give you a holistic answer that is representing the difference of news to remain unbiased so that you can make up your own mind of what you think about this topic. For example, one of the questions you can do in this Ask News demo is to ask, should AI be regulated? Which is the question you just asked right now, David. And as there is conflicting opinions on that, right? There's people thinking AI should be regulated because we're afraid of some of the downsides, like cloning. Cloning is a very significant downside. Like somebody cloning you without your permission is a significant downside. We can get back to that. If you ask me a question about that, I can give you any stories on that one. I'm sure you've heard some of yourself. That's why that some people argue that we should regulate because afraid of these things. But there's many other people arguing, no, we should not regulate because it's too early. It's still at the beginning of AI. And we want the smaller companies to innovate and move quicker. And smaller companies get stifled by innovation. Like they don't have the lawyers and the people that a big company like Google would have to go and pass through all of the regulation. So actually the bigger companies have been arguing for more regulation here in the US. I and a number of other large companies have been arguing with the US government to introduce more regulations. But smaller companies like Hugging Face and a number of others have been arguing, no, that's very dangerous right now because you're going to increase the monopoly of the big companies. You're not going to allow the new companies to be able to innovate with AI. Luckily, the US actually published this week their framework around how to regulate AI. And I was very impressed that the government really took the opinions of both sides and gave a very balanced approach in the middle that allows both to live up to it. But there's still use regulation for the really dangerous stuff. Sorry for the very long answer.
No,
But that's the next question.
yeah, this is great actually, because I've been thinking a lot about this because I have, as I said, if I'm starting to use, let's say, ChatGPT, and I know there's enterprise and things like that for big companies that could use it that is more secure. But if I'm using this to, let's say, from my IP, my proprietary training system or something like that, which is, let's say, for paying students, then that kind of gets anyone, then they learn about this, which is maybe not the best if it's general knowledge, basically. So I prefer to have like more of a closed system. That kind of what you mentioned as well, like when you're using Vectara or something like that, it's more
Exactly.
secure. And that's the
You're right. It's more secure. You control your intellectual property, your IP a bit more. And then you have the explainability as well, which is very key. So when you produce the answer you get, right now, ChatGPT just gives you the answer. It's like, where did this answer come from? Why should I believe this? How do I know this is not the copyright of somebody else? How do I know this is true, which is not true? So by having citations in the answer and having things in the answer that shows you how and where this answer came from or where this generative output came from, that gives you more confidence in it. And that will allow these companies, Navid, that you highlighted are worried about adopting the technology, would give them more confidence in adopting it because they now get more comfort into where it's coming up with that answer versus now just a black box. And that's what's scary.
I've got a really good story about this. This week, I was meeting with the president of the Tax Accounting Association of Lower Saxony in Germany. They want to pilot the platform that we're building for their internal knowledge system. And that was the one concern they had, is to be able to prove and to fact check where the answer comes from that the AI gives.
Yes.
It wouldn't have, the pilot wouldn't have happened if there's not this citation feature in the platform. That sparked another thought in me. When it comes to all these AI startups, like I'm not the only one building a system like this. There's gazillion people, what feels like, how do we need to position ourselves? Let's say I'm a content creator. I've got my course. I've got 500 hours of training material that I can digitize and put into an LLM. How do I need to think about actually making this a business model?
That's a very good question. So that said, it's an open-ended question because that depends on the industry you're in, what business you're in. If you are creating content around fashion, for example, then the monetization is going to be advertising. You're going to have sponsored advertising for certain brands that want to appear with their new content. And the way that this technology would help you is to create a lot more content than normal and to more naturally insert these brands into your content. You always want to be careful how you put new content in whatever you're creating. For example, a cool AI company, I'm spacing out on the name, right? But will come back to me, is for social media creator creating videos, right? And you can insert things in your background. So you have a very nice background, Jan, but maybe on the shelf in the back there, I can put a nice big bottle of Pepsi or Coca-Cola, right? And the Pepsi and Coca-Cola will pay you a few bucks to have that in the background. But you don't want to go buy one and put it right now in your background. I can do that for you automatically. This new startup allows you to just say, take my video, you go do the deal with Pepsi, Coca-Cola, whatever brands are out there, and then insert them into my environment naturally. So it appears like it actually was there in my background. So that's how I see this technology helping somebody making content of that type. But if you're in the business of, for example, giving legal advice and you're creating lots and lots of legal contracts, then it's very different how you're going to monetize, because now you're monetizing based on the new contracts that you're creating for that end user or for that customer that's working with you. Leveraging this technology, you will be able to create 100 contracts in the same time that you were able to only do one contract. So it's increasing your efficiency, but the business model for how you make money is still the same model. You're just doing more of it. Right. So it really depends on the business line that you're in.
Just on the legal contracts, I've seen people doing that before with selling to, let's say, creators. Maybe they have their clients as well, of course, where they're doing customized, but they can also sell templates, of course, with a disclaimer that you might want to consult your lawyer and all this kind of stuff. But they can actually use AI now to develop this no-code platform. So you can have the prompts in the background and all this kind of stuff. You can do that. You can have they fill in some answers and they get like the contract they want. So it's really revolutionizing a lot of delivery. I can see also training programs, how they're just enhanced with small AI tools. Let's say I took my program and just bring in an AI aspect to it with my templates and getting it to a tool, and people answer questions and they're getting the answers for their sales page or the different things they need, which is saves time.
Exactly. That's it. Saves time. See, that is the summary. That's the summary of Gen AI. The summary of it is it saves time. It will allow you to do at the same time that we were doing one thing, you'll be able to do 100 things.
Yeah.
If not more, depending on the industry you're in. That is really the bottom line of this whole movement. And what is exciting us all about is we're going to be superhuman.
I had a conversation with someone. She had 60 employees. Now she's only having 10 and she's making more money. And I think for like smaller creators, solopreneurs, they might have, maybe they had 5 to 10 team members, like maybe VAs or even full-time employees. Now they can do this with only like maybe yourself or like with 2 VAs doing this, and you're training them on the system with AI, which is incredible.
And that's going to happen across industry. That's going to be everywhere. And that's why regulation cannot stop this. I always say, some people will say, let's slow down AI. AI is moving so fast. Let's have no, you can never stop efficiency. History has shown us over and over again that whenever we humans, whenever we innovate and discover something that's more efficient, it wins. You cannot stop in this way. You can try as much as you want. You can't. For example, during the Industrial Revolution, which Germany and Europe, of course, played a very big role in, when we came up with the factories and the machines now that can make cloth, that can make cars, that can build buildings faster, there were riots in the streets. There were many people who said, oh, our jobs, we're going to lose our jobs. We won't be able to do this. And then governments tried to introduce some regulation to keep them having their jobs, and the machines can only do this, but they can't do that. But very quickly, businesses, like money speaks, they say, if I can spend $1 here and do 100 times what I spend doing the dollar over there, I'm going to go here and spend it on the thing that does it 100 times faster, 100 times quicker, 100 times cheaper. That's the bottom line, is this is happening. And all of us need to start learning how to use it. Otherwise, we will lose our job. We'll be one of those 10 people that lost their job or whatever in this example that you gave.
Amr, you mentioned the AI avatars a little bit, and I'm just curious to hear your thoughts about that. We have seen, like, as I said, Friedman and Mark Zuckerberg, they're doing this, like going in to clone themselves and doing like a scan and all this kind of stuff. Where do you see this is going? And I mean, of course, they can be used for bad as well, with impersonating celebrities and things like that, or even creators. They can put out bad information with this. So What's your take and where do you think this is going?
First, I'm actually a geek, so I love VR and I have VR since forever. And I have all the VR headsets that ever came out and it's getting there. It's almost there. What we need is a VR headset, which is just glasses, right? We just need glasses. You put on and it works. That's what we need, and we'll get there one day. And we'll be able to have this meeting and as if we're sitting in the same room together, just like that great demo that Lex Friedman had with But cloning, my biggest concern with cloning right now is the regulations around. So cloning needs regulation. For example, I just saw on the news today or yesterday, Scarlett Johansson, I think she just raised a number of lawsuits now against people that are just taking her image and creating all kinds of stuff without her permission. That's her image. You cannot do that. You cannot take my voice and take my image and do things with it without my permission. Right now, many governments don't have regulations around that. I think it should be acquired. Somebody will take your voice and make a clone of your voice. You're an excellent interviewer. Both of you right now interviewing me. I'm having this. And now they start to replicate your work with your voice and with your image. Of course, that's wrong, right? Imagine worse. Imagine they clone your voice or they clone the voice of one of your kids. And then they call up home and say, oh, Dad, I've been kidnapped. And these guys are going to cut off my fingers one by one unless you send €1 million to this Bitcoin account. And as far as you're concerned, it's their voice. It's them. It has to be them, right? Which is very bad. And that happened here in the US actually a few times. We need to have one of the things I'm very passionate about when it comes to regulations is these kind of things. Because I'm a big believer in technology is technology. The scary part is us humans abusing technology. That is really the most scary part. We need to have both us, meaning the creators of technology, need to put the proper controls to prevent it from being abused whenever we can. We should be doing that. And that's model alignment. All the work we do with model alignment is around that. But then we should also have regulations that prevent humans from abusing technology. So a great example is the car. Great. They can get us from point A to point B very efficiently. And that's why they won over horses, because they were way efficient than horses. But by the way, people resisted cars at the beginning as well. They thought, I'm never going to ride I love my horse, like my horse and my friend, and I have but eventually, of course, cars won. And that's a great example of efficiency. Always win. So cars killed a ton of people when they came out, and they still do. Today in the US, I think per year, 40,000 people die from cars every year. But we improved a lot from the early days because we kept adding more and more things in the car itself, like the seatbelt, the airbag. I think now in Europe, there is regulations around the car will detect if you're drunk or if you're dizzy, and it will refuse to be driven or something like that. And it will detect if you're close by to having collision, it will brake. Even if you're not braking, it will brake for you. All of these things will help reduce and make the technology better. But at the same time, we're doing technological changes to make that technology safer. We introduced regulations, right? There's a regulation. If you drive your car while you're drunk and we catch you, there can be a very big penalty. If you drive your car and you try to run over people with it and kill them, you're going to go to prison because you killed people with the car and it was not built for that. So we need to have both. And one of the areas where we are lacking regulation right now, from my perspective, is what you highlighted. So we need more regulations around cloning. Cloning should be done. We should be able to clone our voice and clone our shape and our body. We should be able to, but only with our permission. We agree it's being cloned and it's for that use, and I'm licensing it for that use. And if somebody's going to use it in a different way, they need to be paying me because I'm using my clone now to do something without my permission, do something else. So we need more regulations around that. It's just one area.
I think what's also really becoming important is this awareness about all the opportunities and the possibilities, but also the risks, as you said. And a little bit more question on the private side here. I've got a 3-year-old right now, and ever since I became a dad, I was like, my kid would learn how to code because I believe in coding teaches you how to think, how to break down problems, and all those things. But now, with AI, and I've got Ada installed on my MacBook. It's an AI pair programming thing. I don't know. I don't need to know how to code anymore because I just, as you've said earlier, you tell the AI what application you want to build and it does the thing for you. So how do we raise awareness within our kids, maybe within friends who don't know about AI or don't want to know, and they put their head in the sand and say, oh, please let this pass. And then they're the ones who lose their job because they get replaced by humans who use AI. How do we educate those people?
Yes. So first on the coding thing, AI can help us do some coding, but we still need developers. We still need somebody who can think about the architecture, the overall system, and how to put the pieces together. In the same way that I see AI is making content producers 100 times more productive, making lawyers 100 times more productive. It's also going to make developers 100 times. So it's still okay to have our kids learn how to develop. But the more important advice, which I'll keep giving, and I gave it earlier, is you teach your kids to learn how to change. Like that is way more important, right? In our lifetime, we could keep the same job for 30, 40 years. Our kids' lifetime, they probably will have to change their job every 10 years if they last that long. That's why I think the most important thing we can teach our kids is to have the curiosity to learn and to not be afraid of change. These are what I teach our kids most. Like, you can do whatever you want, but be super curious and be open to learning something new, going beyond what's the first thing you have learned. Because I cannot predict which jobs will still exist in 10 years from now versus not. It's very hard. But you might be right, I might be wrong, and you might be right, though, that we won't need developers at 10 years from now. But at least I do know that 10 years from now, the developers who use AI will be a million times more productive than those that don't. And hence, we might not need as many developers as we needed them. So jobs will be affected. And hence, we need to have that ability to learn how to do new things. That is the most important advice I can give.
Yeah, this is great. How do you see?
And definitely don't put your head in the sand. It will be a dinosaur so quick.
Oh, this is great advice. I love it. How do you see the balance between human creativity and AI evolving in the next years? What do you see happening there?
I usually have answers for these questions, but I've learned to be very humble now over the last year because things are moving at a speed that
they age like fine milk, probably.
Yeah, every day we're seeing something new that we could not expect to be happening. It's very hard to predict everything, like a year from now, how it will change. But at least for my domain of problem, the problem that Vectara is solving, which is how to enable you to have conversations with your own data or generate content based on your own data, training materials or otherwise. One of the key problems that I'm hoping we will completely solve by next year is the hallucination problem, right? Today, even with our technique of doing grounding and keeping you, there's still a 3% chance that it can happen, even with that. So we really need to make that 0%. And that is both my hope, but my goal for the company, but my goal for all of us in the world. Like, I know many researchers are working on this problem, is to solve that problem. Now, what would be some impressive creative things I would love to see a year from now? I would love to see the AR, VR, mixed reality vision truly being delivered. Not like an Apple headset that costs $4,000 and then looks.
They didn't even mention, by the way, they didn't mention AI. Did you notice this as well? In the presentation, they don't mention it. I think just on top of Apple hasn't really dove in, like, with, if you look at their tools, I'm sure they're using AI for a lot of things, but they haven't put it out there. Hey, this is an AI features, like a lot of other tools, a lot of other companies right now, they're putting it front and center to everyone to see, but not Apple yet. So we'll see what
but
happens.
I wouldn't underestimate Apple. You're right, but I wouldn't underestimate them because they are patient. They take their time, but they know what they're doing. So I'll tell you, I know they hired a ton of people from Google, from the Google AI people. A big chunk of them now work for Apple, right? And they know that. Just Siri, we know. If you talk to Siri, Siri is really bad. It's really horrible in terms of the knowledge and the answers and the conversational aspects it has. And they know that they need that for the future. I expect to see some really truly amazing things coming out of it. But going back to AR and VR, what I would really like to see a year from now is that I can put contact lenses in my eyes. Just put the contact lenses in my eyes. And now I can look at your faces and your names will appear at the top of your head. And the context of our last conversation and how many kids you have and the hobbies you have and the last thing we talked about will appear beside you. So right away, the context comes back. And now the average person, not the salespeople are really good at this, but the average person, myself, I can only keep about 70 people in my active working set. But the 70 people that I really know everything about them. But above those 70, I lose detail. I don't remember last time what we talked about. But with something like this, that helps me remember everybody I've interacted with, everybody I've spoken with. Oh my God, like now I have an infinite memory. Like that will make me so much more productive. So I'm really hoping something like that will happen next year. I know we have early prototypes of that and it doesn't exist yet, but I'm looking forward.
That is awesome. And I think also what I think we will see pretty soon, and maybe they are already piloting this, but on the social platforms, YouTube, for example, we are going to probably see that you have translate for each, like already with the caption and stuff, but I'm sure they're going to have voice as well. And maybe in the future, you're going to have your own voice there. Now with 11 Labs and HeyGen, maybe they're going to integrate these tools natively into the platform. Now the technology for long form content is more expensive. So they do it mostly. People are testing it for short form. It will cost a lot to do it for these 2-3 hour videos. Some people are doing for podcasts, but I think that is something I'm excited about because they imagine just reaching a Spanish audience or something like that, because I think on YouTube wants people to stay on the platform. If someone is coming to this session we are doing now, we are speaking English. Yeah, they can check captions, text, but that's not as engaging. Imagine hearing us speaking the native language of someone. I think that would be really cool. And they're seeing our lip synced and all this kind of stuff. I think that is
Yeah.
something I'm excited about for the future, but for our own content, not just impersonating someone else or something like that.
Yeah, that happened already. That's coming.
Yeah.
Spotify is an excellent demo in the
Yeah,
platform.
Spotify is doing well. I saw that as well, but it's just not out for everyone yet. It's coming pretty soon, I think. So I'm excited for this. Really excited.
The ability to create long-term, full-length movies. So if you look at the video Gen AI stuff, it's actually very embarrassing, like, to be honest. And we tried a couple of systems, and they make some nice short clips, but sometimes they're like really weird. The carry value, the way that man is eating the burger, something is off. I don't know what is off, but it's off. They still have that. I'm hoping the video generation will become better by next year as well, because I'm really looking at, many of us are very creative, but we don't have the ability to be a Steven Spielberg and create a movie like E.T. or a movie like AI, by the way. He has a very good movie called AI if you have not watched it. And I would love to be able to do that one day. So I'm really excited about that potential as well. Sorry, Jan, I interrupted. Go ahead.
No worries at all. I just was looking at the clock, and we want to be respectful of your time because you are more busy than we are. People who are watching this, the creators, be it writers, photographers, videographers. What's one piece of advice you would give to them to thrive in this new era that we're heading into?
I'll give them two pieces of advice. The first one is don't put your head in the sand, like you said earlier. And the second one is start doing something, even if it's very little, even if it's only part of your business. But now you're getting into it. You're learning how to integrate these new amazing technologies as part of your workflow. And that will lead to you becoming more productive and will lead to you becoming more conscious of the new things coming down the horizon, which will give you a significant edge compared to those putting their heads in the sand.
I have one final question. Was there any question you wanted us to ask, but we didn't? Or do you have any final words of wisdom you want to share?
I have a question I want you to ask me. So the question is, what's the probability of AI doom? There's some people out there saying AI would become Skynet, like the Terminator, and then end the world. I can tell you, as somebody who is in AI, working on these algorithms, seeing how these things work, that we're not even close to anything like it. And I'm serious. All that AI is doing right now is automating a task in a very simple way, and that's it. I don't see that's the AI boom scenario in terms of a Skynet scenario coming, but at the same time, I am a lot more worried and a lot more concerned about us humans and using AI in a bad way. For example, some of the initial large language models were done in a way that wasn't properly aligned, that allowed them to create new types of viruses. You can research creating new types of the viruses, which is poisonous, which is very dangerous. And then now a human taking that and making it and with bad intentions and spreading it, they can affect a very large population. That is more my concern. Us humans, we are the problem, not technology, to be honest. That's my answer to that question.
Amr, I really appreciate your time coming on here. This has been amazing. I really enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure if you're watching this, you enjoyed Amr's outlook on everything we talked about here. We'll link up some of the resources, of course. Check out Vectara. Leave your biggest takeaways in the comments as well. We can engage with you there. This has been amazing. Hopefully, I see you in the next session. And ciao for now.